ISIS has achieved like this supervillain status, and they're this somewhat ragtag group of several thousand radicals. But why have they been so successful? Why do we fear them so much, and can we defeat them?
So it's a very good set of questions, an important one. I don't know if you recall, about a year ago, maybe a bit more than a year ago, President Obama referred to ISIS as a JV team, like junior varsity, like he wouldn't take them seriously. Today or yesterday, John Kerry said the main priority of the United States is to destroy ISIS in 1 year. So that either signals that the US completely lacks foresight, which I doubt. They have a lot of intelligence. As many mistakes as they might make, they have a lot of intelligence. Or something's happened in the interim. ISIS, as you said, is a ragtag group in the sense, like geostrategically, ISIS is not a threat, right? They're only succeeding in Syria and Iraq because there's an implosion there and they're being funded by other groups. We are focused on them because they're evil, but there's a lot of evil in the world. We're focused on them because they're evil and they choose to project their evil onto our computer and TV screens regularly. And they're basically, this points to something very important that I research, how emotion influences the way we process information. The emotion you're in, the emotional state you're in when you see something is going to affect how you relate to it. And fear gives us tunnel vision. You know, to make a long story short, once the president said the only thing to fear is fear itself, there's a reason for that. Because once you're afraid of something, our bodies are wired to focus only on that thing to the exclusion of all kinds of other things. Bigger threats. For example, Iran, Hezbollah, the wider unrest in the Middle East, issues of instability in Europe, for example, all these things. So using fear has made ISIS something prominent. And I believe Western governments are exploiting that to push certain policies.
I would not disagree with that. And you had made that point on your previous appearance here that you thought that Iran and Hamas presented a much larger threat than does ISIS, yet ISIS gets all of the attention. And certainly when they go around beheading people or destroying antiquities, which are our human heritage, I mean, they are deserving of their status as the villains that they are. However, it just seems to me like if we are talking about a group of people, 30,000, 50,000, whatever it is, who have popped up as a group after 2011, it seems like the United States government would be able to squash something like this. But I mean, listen, it's guerrilla warfare. We've not succeeded in that for quite some time. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, shouldn't we be able to beat these guys?
Well, there's reports that the Americans are not bombing training camps, ISIS training camps, which would be a nice way to weaken them. I really think the Western world, led by America now, has an incentive in letting ISIS do some damage, right? Again, ISIS is excellent at showing itself to be scary. If the cameras were focusing on what Iran does, executing gays, executing dissidents, raping them in prison, supporting terrorism, we'd be freaking out about Iran. But the cameras don't do that. They do it about ISIS. So what happens when all our focus is on ISIS? Iran suddenly seems less bad. Giving $150 billion to Iran seems like it might not be so bad if they help us defeat ISIS. Letting Assad continue a genocide. Assad's killed almost 100 times, let's say 50 times more people than ISIS has. Letting him stay in power all of a sudden seems more reasonable, right? Fear, like other emotions, completely skews how we're making our judgment about this. And what you said is right. ISIS has about, according to some reports, 30,000 fighters. They have about a $1 to $2 billion budget a year, which is huge for a terrorist group. But they don't have rockets or missiles. They don't have any sizable tank armaments to speak of. They don't have submarines, they don't have boats, they don't have jet fighters. Iran has all those things. Hezbollah has 100,000 rockets, including missiles, right? But we're focused on ISIS because we see them beheading children. And it's normal because of evolution. When you see somebody be beheaded, your body almost wants you to do something about it.
Yes.
What you don't see remains abstract. And that's what either the media is doing unconsciously, skewing our judgment, or it's what Western governments want because it takes pressure off this Iran deal, which I think is a recipe for disaster.